The true problem are you Christian theologians. Call law Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakadash.
And then I came across a newspaper article, and I actually still have it. I've got it right here. I kept it. This was what got me started on the ancient Hebrew. You might have seen this on my website, or at least a color picture of this. This is the Temple of Yahweh Ostraca, and it was found it was in 1997, and it mentions the Temple of Yahweh. And I saw that script, and I said, that's not the Hebrew I'm learning. What is this? And so I got really interested in the ancient Hebrew script, which kind of led me on a journey to where we're at here today. There was a story about 3 blind men who were walking along a trail. And they all came up to the same object, and they started feeling around to see what this thing was in the middle of their path. One of them yelled out, "It's a rope." Another one said, "No, it's a tree trunk." Another one said, "No, it's a snake." Okay, how in the world can 3 people come to the same object, see or feel 3 different things? What was it they came across? Any ideas? Any guesses? An elephant. You might have heard the story before. Well, yeah, it was an elephant. They were feeling different parts of it. And that's what we are as English, Greco-Roman, Western thinkers. We're approaching the biblical text from the wrong perspective. We're blind men trying to feel our way through the text, trying to understand it. That's why we have so many different ways of understanding the scriptures. Bottom line is you got to get back to the Hebrew. You got to understand the culture, the mindset of the people who wrote the text. You can't pick up the Bible and read it like a Sunday newspaper. It doesn't work. Just to give you an idea of how things get mixed up over time, if I go like this, what does that mean? Good. If you said to me, how was the camping trip? Hey, it was great. Now, if I went like that, what does that mean? Bad. Terrible time. Pretty bad. Where does that come from? The Roman gladiators. If the Caesar was up, one of the gladiators got the man on the ground. He's standing over his body. He looks up at Caesar, and Caesar goes like this. And he looks at him, and if he goes like that, what does it mean? Life. Wrong. It means death. It means to the throat. If he goes like that, what does it mean? He lives. Throw your sword to the ground. What happened? What happened? 2,000 years have gone by, and this got turned to this, and this got turned to this. It got all mixed up. And we'll see a few examples in the Hebrew how exactly that same thing has happened in the Hebrew language when we're reading the Bible backwards in some cases. And also to give you an example of how sometimes translations can get mixed up. Anybody here familiar with the story of Cinderella? And what kind of slippers did she have? Glass. No. Originally it was not glass. It's a Russian story. It was originally written in Russia, but the Russian word was translated later into French. The Frenchman found the Cinderella story, liked it, translated into French, and he translated that word as verre. Now the word verre can either be glass, but spelled V-A-I-R-E, or it can be fur, V-A-R-E. They sound the same, but they're 2 different words. Originally in the Russian story, it was Cinderella's fur slippers. The Frenchman made a mistake, and he translated as glass slippers. Now we got this gal trying to run around in glass. Can you imagine wearing glass shoes? So there was an error made in that translation, which caused to us now having the Walt Disney picture with Cinderella with the glass slipper. These type of things happen all the time in the biblical text. Okay, the most crucial ingredient to communication is using common understanding of words. If we are talking here, you're familiar with my speech, I'm familiar with your speech, we can communicate. I used to live on the West Coast in California. I moved to Pennsylvania Dutch country. Oh boy, you talk about a culture shock. There were times literally where I had no idea what the other people were talking about. We had conversations and I was all mixed up. He was all mixed up. We couldn't understand each other. This is one simple example. I was in the drive-thru at McDonald's and she goes, here's your drink a while. Here's your drink a while. Well, what the heck does that mean? Anybody here know what that meant? I had no clue. I started hearing that word a while a lot. People say, here, do this a while. I finally went to a friend of mine and says, hey, what does this mean? He says, oh, while you're not doing anything. I go, oh, now that makes sense. It means while you're not doing anything. A while. Okay, but I didn't know. I couldn't understand. The biblical text was originally written in Hebrew by Hebrews in a Hebraic culture. If we try and read the Bible from an American or a modern Western culture, you're going to get things mixed up. Something's not going to click right. We may think we're understanding it, but in fact we're not. Of, the Hebrew word av. How many people recognize that word there? I think probably a lot of us have. Okay, what does av mean? Father.
We get the message. See that? See, this is why we come in a stance of in Paleo-Hebrew understanding. You can't come into the truth. You can't come into the Bible with your Western, as he said, Roman, Greco understanding. And it makes total sense, right? Total sense, right? And so, I like the topic that he brought up because that holds a lot of weight for the day, right? And it shows you the tactics that has been perpetuated by the Christian theologians on down, right? Why you think all these Bible institutions were set up a certain type of way? See that? So the true problem is you Christian theologians, right? Why? Because they use half and half. They use the Western way of thinking, the Roman way of thinking mixed with the Bible, right? So when we get to the New Testament, we fully don't understand what's going on. And I'm going to make an example, right? Make an example. But first, before I go there, he said something that I like, right? He said a few things that I like, which is true. Now, not all of those words that he was hitting, you know what I'm saying, is an ancient Paleo-Hebrew. Nevertheless, I like the concept that he was bringing out, right? Which makes a lot of sense. So, without further ado, and I do not own no rights to that video clip, all right? So I own a fair use on that. I have no claims, but it's for spiritual purposes, for teachings, and research. All right. All right. So let's before I go there, I'm gonna show y'all how they set a system up the same way that was set up when the Lord came the first time. It was already a systematic thing that was already set up for the people to eat and to eat and feed on, right? And so what we see in this modern day, 21st century, we see the same exact thing, you know what I'm saying, because it's dealing with what? Western way of thinking, right? Now, I like what he was saying. If we can go to the Apocrypha, and I'm going to tell you why the Apocrypha is so important from what I'm about to say, because Bible scholars, right, condemn and, basically condemn the Apocrypha, right? And they condemn it based off of what? The system that was set up. That's it. Now, what was the system that was set up? We're going to get to that. Just remember Nicene Creed. Nevertheless, they put these type of they took this Bible out, right? And that's why most people, and I'm gonna tell you why, most people don't understand what's going on in the scene of the New Testament, right? Because you got systems set up already in place when Yahweh Shai comes in there, right? So look at this. Let's get it real quick. It's very important. The problem is you Christian theologians, and I'm gonna tell you why. All right. So let's go to Wisdom of Solomon. All right. No, Salaki, Sirach. Book of Sirach. All right. It's the book of Sirach, which is Ecclesiasticus. All right. This is one of the books they took out, right? Now he talked about language is very important, which I am a true believer of, right? The language. Hey, even Martin Luther King said, he made a point right before he died. You know what I'm saying? He was talking about the systematic racism that is set up, right? And I like what he said. He said, we got to get the language right. We got to get the language right. Salaki. He said, we got to get the language right. You got to get the language right. Right? And the language is not just speaking the actual language, but having the actual mindset and using the concepts of that very language that originates, right? Because everything has an origins. Everything got some origins, right? All these holidays, they have an origin to it. And most of them is what? Western, from the Western world. Most, especially in America, most of the stuff we do is based off the Western systematic way that we was taught from yay high all the way up to high school onto college. You know what I'm saying? We were set up like that, right? Whether it was in the entertainment system, the educational system, or the religious system, they all coincide with each other when you look at it in a Western standpoint. For instance, when you look at the biblical text based on imagery, which we all know, right? The imagery that we were taught who the Bible was by ethnicity was white folks. You know? And we're gonna be honest here, like we always be, right? If you go into the old King James Bible, I don't know if I can pull it. If I'll pull it out. Yeah, I'm not gonna go and get it. But nevertheless, if you look at some of the old, not even the King James, this is like this is an old, I think it was Geneva. I think it's called Geneva. And I'm looking at the Bible, and basically it's all about imagery, right? They got all the pictures, and they're all white folks. Angels white, which we all know, right? And so, you know, that's when you look at the value, when you look at the Bible, you see how they set that system up to where, that's what you're gonna think about, right? You'll think that, okay, in the back of my subconscious, based off the imagery that I have learned about or partaked about, whether I say I don't believe that Jesus is white or the apostle is white, well, you can say that with your lips, but in the back of your subconscious, it's the Western understanding, right? And so now that's the religious realm, right? So then that moves on, that they connect that what you learn in the religious world, and then when you want to be entertained, you go into the entertainment world, and they're giving you an image as well. And when it's come to these, like we talking about these Bible movies, we talking about the Christian world, entertainment world, with the Bible, with these Bible movies, Nazareth, Passion of Christ, AD continues, right? These are all the imagery that you learn in the education in the entertainment world, right? Salaki from stuttering in the entertainment world. So whatever you was taught in the religious world, the imagery is gonna be in the entertainment world, and also it's in the religious world too, because they got a lot of pictures as well, right? Right, and then also it carries on to the political world. Why? Because especially America, but all the Western world deem themselves as a Christian nation, right? So when most of the time you think Christian, it's more of a Western way. It's more of a Western vibration, whether you want to say it or not. All right, and that's it. So all three of those entities coexist with one another. All right. So this is why you got to get the language right. Right? And the imagery. You know, imagery is important, man. You know, I got books right here that literally show what some of these pictures, what some of these ancient biblical characters really look like, based off some of the museums that was in Damascus, that was in certain parts of Africa, also in Egypt, right? And they, now a lot of them ain't there because of the ISIS agenda of tearing down a lot of those statues in Damascus. They went straight to the museum and started knocking some of these, because why? Majority of those pics, they were black. They were black folks portrayed as Peter and so forth. You know? So that was an agenda. That was what they call it, Renaissance agenda, you know, by ISIS. Now when you go and start following the footsteps and the origins of ISIS, you'll find out, and that's public record, that the CIA was created them. And that's public record. You can check that out. I might pull that out, maybe not. I don't know. All right, but it's something to think about. It's like, okay, why are they knocking down these pictures, right? Same thing that Alexander did in Egypt. He knocked down the picture. This is the Renaissance vibration, right? Knock down and change pictures. All right, so this was Moses, you know, and this is in a museum in Damascus. Okay. Yeah, this is young Moses too. All right, and this. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, so this is okay, so these two pictures right here, right? This supposed to be Joseph, man. Joseph, because you remember Joseph was identified as an Egyptian by his brethren when he was in power. You know what I'm saying? That was Joseph. Now these are literally in museums, bro. You know what I'm saying? He lets you know. He'll give you even a website of where you can find some of these pics at, right? All right. So, oh yeah, here you go. This is Joseph. This is who they say Joseph is in Egypt, right? Egypt museums, right? That's Joseph. You know, Moses and Joseph, right? So imagery is what I'm showing you is imagery is very highly important, man. If you don't got the imagery, then And that's why they use it against us. Okay? And that's why they tore down a lot of our stuff. We had scribes and certain individuals that was painting. Look at that. This brother got braids. This is during the captivity in Assyria. All right? So imagery is important. Now, with the Western mindset and their imagery, you already know what the imagery is. It's more of a Zeus, Hermes type of look from the apostles on down, even to the Lord. So you got to get the language right. Let's get that. He talked about Paleo Hebrew. You can't read the Bible, even if you read in English, right? You can't read the Bible in English with a Western Christian mindset. You can't do it. It's not gonna work. Why? We're gonna get to that. But let's get in this, because I'm gonna make this. All right. So okay. Let's get it. All right. We dealing with the Hebrew language, right? Look at this. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 1. All right. It says, let's go straight to the point. It says, wherefore let me entreat you to read it with favor and intention, and to pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words. So he said we came short of some words. Now this in the book of Sirach, which is Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, he's letting them know the structure of these skillful men. He's letting them know that the scribes and these skillful men and how they write and interpret the scrolls, and he's kind of breaking it down when they interpret it in different languages, and he's showing you the value in Hebrew, the Hebrew language, and the misinterpretations that can happen in different languages, right? Check this out. He says, wherein we may seem to come short of some words. So you come short of some words when you speak in different languages, trying to interpret the Hebrew. And likewise with the concept of a Western world reading the Bible, man, you can't do it. Look at this. He says, which we have labored to interpret, right? So there were shortened some words, and it was laboring trying to interpret these things because it didn't fit, right? He says, for the same things uttered in Hebrew, so the same words that they're trying to interpret, if it was uttered in Hebrew, what? And translated into another tongue. So if it's translated, so it's interpreted in Hebrew and translated to another tongue, this is what it looks like. Have not the same force in them. So if it's not, when it's translated from Hebrew to another tongue, it don't have the same force, right? Let's look that word up real quick. It said it don't have the same force. All right? Let's get that definition real quick. Force definition.
Here's the definition of force. Strength or energy is an attribute of physical action or movement.
So it don't have the same energy, physical action, or movement when it's translated from Hebrew to something else, right? It just gives you a basics of what it's talking about, but it don't give you the force. That's what we're moving in the mind and concepts that we're doing today. We're using our ancient paleo understanding as much as possible, right? Even in the whatever language you're using, it's the concept. If you have a Hebraic, ancient Paleo Hebrew Hebraic concept of the Bible, then you understand what the Bible is really talking about when it's dealing with Gentiles and how many definitions of Gentiles there is, or when you're dealing with worlds and how many definitions of world there is, right? And so that's why these scholars are being challenged in these last days, and I'm going to get on that, right? But let's keep reading. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue, right, have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself. So not only in these things, meaning the scriptures, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books. So all of the books, man, of the Lord, man, all the scrolls of the Lord, it don't have the same force and power, and you can't get the understanding without it, right? Have no small difference. He said it's not even a small difference, it's a huge difference. So when you have a Greco-Roman Western mindset, then according to the book of Sirach, it's not no small difference. It's a big difference, right? And the rest of the books have no small difference. But when they are spoken in their own language, but when they are spoken in their own language, all right. So Hebrew. This is when the Most High spoke. You know what I'm saying? It was Paleo-Hebrew. When all the nations at one point spoke Hebrew by way of Adam, right? Let's prove that. This is Genesis 10. Genesis chapter 10. All right. Salaki, Genesis chapter 11, verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. So the whole earth was on one language and one speech, man. That's why the Canaanites, the Phoenicians, they were speaking Paleo-Hebrew when we got there. Or when our ancestors got there to the promised land. They were speaking Paleo-Hebrew, right? And we can prove that even in Genesis. In Isaiah real quick. That they were speaking Paleo-Hebrew, man. Because they was in our land, right? It was in the land of the nation of Israel, whom the Lord promised before the foundation of the world. So they was still occupants. They was just occupied until we got there. You know what I'm saying? And they had our our actual language, right? Isaiah, let's prove that. The Canaanites, Canaanites are the Phoenicians, right? And the Canaanites spoke Paleo-Hebrew, and we're gonna prove it right here. And I got a few books, like the Babylon Timbuktu. He actually talks about that as well, right? But if you go to Isaiah chapter 19, dealing with Isaiah, this is a prophecy. The Egyptians shall go against the Egyptians. It's dealing with today, right? Look at this. It says Isaiah 19, verse 18. It says, in that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt, which were we in today, speak the language of Canaan and swear to the Lord of hosts. One shall be called the city of destruction. So we're gonna be speaking judgment in the land of Egypt, which is the house of bondage, with the language of Cain. Why he's saying that? Because it's Paleo-Hebrew. All right. And the Paleo-Hebrew concept, rather, as well. You know what I'm saying? Because in Paleo-Hebrew, we'll say the Lord's name, and we'll have that ancient concept of how our ancestors moved, man. Not with a Western, Greek, Roman, Greco understanding. No, sir. Okay, let's get it. Because all through, in the Bible, I'm trying to speed up for the sake of time. Let me get one more. All right, it's in the Bible, right? Even Yahushua, who the world called Jesus Christ, spoke Paleo-Hebrew to Paul, and Paul made it clear, because Paul spoke 2 languages. He spoke Hebrew and the Greek. Right, let's get that real quick. This is Acts chapter 21. Why? Because Paul's from Tarsus, which is Spain, modern day Spain, who was considered to be a Roman citizen. Acts chapter 21, 37. Let's get it. It's the book of Acts chapter 21, verse 7. Let's start at verse 6. For the multitude of the people followed, crying, followed after, crying, away with him. Talking about Paul, the soldiers. Let's go up. Verse 31. And when he came upon the stairs, so it was that he was born of that he bore the soldiers for the violence of the people. So they was trying to bring violence on Paul. 37. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, may I speak unto you? Who said, can thou speak Greek? So the soldier looked at Paul, because Paul said, hey man, let me speak to you. And he spoke in the Greek tongue. And the soldier looked at him like, you speak Greek? He says, are you not that Egyptian which before these days made an uproar and led out into the wilderness 400 men? So he like, man, aren't you that Egyptian that rebelled and stuff? He's like, because Paul like, hey, he's speaking in the Greek language. So what point I'm making? Paul spoke both languages. He spoke in the Greek. Why? Because there was Greek speaking Jews who were called the Hellenists, right? During the time of Alexander, when he converted all the Jews to be Greeks, right? All right, so and then we're gonna go now let's go to and this is why he's telling Agrippa that the Lord spoke to him in the Hebrew language, because why? Paul spoke both. But he knows that lets you know that the heavenly language is Paleo Hebrew, right? When you talk about tongues, talk about the Paleo language, right? Let's prove that. I mean, I ain't talking about tongues. That's a different. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about Paleo language is the heavenly language that they communicate in, right? Let's prove that. This is Acts 26, and we're gonna read verse 14. And when we were all fallen to the earth, so he's giving his testimony to Agrippa how Paul got the light, that he got hit with with the light beam and fell off his donkey, or his ride. I heard a voice speaking. So he said, I heard a voice speaking unto me and saying in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, why persecute thou me? It is hard for you to kick against the pricks, right? And that's what Paul was doing, right? So even the Lord was speaking Paleo Hebrew, you know what I'm saying, at that time, in his glory state. In his glory state, he was speaking Paleo Hebrew, right? He was speaking Paleo Hebrew in his glory state, right? That's a blessing, right? And then one more, Zephaniah chapter 3, the Lord's going to restore our tongue back. He's going to restore our tongue back. He's going to put that tongue or that language back in our mouths, so we can understand each other, and so we can have that same force and power that our ancestors did. All right, let's go to Zephaniah real quick. All right, I'm gonna try to speed this up. And this part one right here. This part one. I'm just going off the concept that the man was talking about, because he didn't just say the language, but he says the concept of the Hebraic you have to have. You can't have a Western. You can speak, like say you speak Hebrew, but you got a Western concept of the Bible. It's not going to work, and it make total sense. All right, this is the prophecy in Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9. For then will I turn to the people a pure language. What is a pure language? Paleo Hebrew. That they may call upon my name that they all may call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one consent. And that's like the dude was saying earlier. This is why, because the Western mindset, that this is why you got sprinkles of all different names and different theologies when we all reading the same thing. Is because it's not is not being taught in the concept of the same force of the Paleo-Hebrew, man. And we're going to leave it right there. This is part 1. And I'm going to call this, The Problem Is You Christian Theologians. Why? Because they set up a system to have that Western mindset when interpreting the Bible. Call law Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakadash. All praises.